Hello everyone, Dr. Michael Lamas here for Teaching Subjects. So today we will focus on the intricate rules governing subject-verb agreement in English. We will look at those that often cause confusion in writing. So by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of how to ensure grammatical consistency between subjects and verbs in your sentences. Okay, so first let's take a closer look of what subject-verb agreement is and why it's so essential. So to start with the basic definition, subject-verb agreement means that the subject of a sentence and its verb must align in terms of number. So when we have a singular subject, it takes a singular verb, and similarly, a plural subject needs a plural verb. So this might seem straightforward, but it's easy to overlook, especially when sentences become more complex. So the importance of subject-verb agreement lies in the clarity it brings to our communication. So when the subject and verb don't match, it could lead to confusion for the reader or listener, disrupting the flow of information. So for example, if I say she write a letter instead of the correct way to say it, she writes a letter, it might seem like a minor error, but it affects how easily the sentence is understood. So proper subject-verb agreement isn't just about following rules, it's about making sure that our message is clear and professional. Okay, so now let's go over a few examples to illustrate this more clearly. So consider the sentence, the cat chases the mouse. Here we have a singular subject, the cat, and it correctly pairs with the singular verb chases. If we change the subject to a plural form like the cats, we need to also change the verb to chase, as in the cats chase the mouse. On the other hand, an incorrect version would be the cat chased the mouse, which, as you can hear, it just doesn't sound quite right. Okay, the cat chased the mouse. It doesn't sound right. So we'll continue to see why subject-verb agreements is fundamental as we go through more examples and rules. So just kind of keep this principle in mind as we move forward in today's lesson. Okay, so now that we understand the importance of subject-verb agreement, let's break down the basic rules that guide this concept. So one of the most fundamental rules is that singular subjects take singular verbs, while plural subjects take plural verbs. This means if we have a singular subject, such as the cat, we need a singular verb form. For example, we would say the cat runs. However, if our subject is plural, such as the cats, we need a plural verb, so the sentence becomes the cats run. Now let's look at this in a bit more detail by focusing on the simple present tense, which is often where we notice the singular and plural verbs changes most clearly. So in the simple present tense, singular verbs often end with an S, while plural verbs do not. So with our example, we say the cat runs with an S for singular subjects, but the cats run with no S for a plural subject. So this is a simple yet important pattern to remember, as the structure of verbs in English is directly tied to whether the subject is singular or plural. And following these rules ensure that our sentences are grammatically correct and easy to understand. Now in the coming slides, we will explore more complex scenarios, but this basic rule is a foundational one to master as it applies to most sentences we construct. And keeping this in mind is going to go a long way in helping you spot and correct errors quickly. Alright, so now let's look at subject-verb agreements when dealing with compound subjects or subjects that consist of two or more elements. So the general rule here is that compound subjects joined by the word and usually take a plural verb. So for example, in the sentence, the cat and the dog are outside, we can see that the cat and the dog form a compound subject, so we use the plural verb are. However, there are some exceptions. In cases where two things are frequently considered a single unit, like bread and butter, the verb is singular. So for instance, we would say bread and butter is my favorite breakfast, because we are treating bread and butter as one singular idea. Okay, so now let's move to compound subjects connected by or nor, or and nor. So with these verbs, the verb agrees with the part of the subject closest to it. So if we say either the teacher or the students are attending the meeting, the verb are matches with students, which is closest to it and is plural. So if we switch it around, either the students or the teacher is attending the meeting, the verb changes to is to agree with the singular subject teacher. And understanding these rules helps us manage subject verb agreements even when sentences get more complex. So, by following these patterns, we ensure that our sentences stay grammatically correct and clear for the reader or the listener. Now, let's continue exploring how subject verb agreement works with indefinite pronouns, which are pronouns that don't refer to a specific person, place, or thing. So, examples of common indefinite pronouns include words like everyone, someone, none, and each. So one key point to remember is that some indefinite word pronouns always take singular verbs. So while others can be singular or plural depending on the context. So for instance, pronouns like everyone, someone, and each are always treated as singular. So even though everyone may seem to imply multiple people, we still say everyone is invited to the meeting with the singular verb is. On the other hand, some indefinite pronouns like none, some, all, and most can be singular or plural depending on what they are referring to. So for example, if the word all refers to a singular uncountable noun, we use a singular verb. Okay, so for example, all of the water is gone. But if all refers to a plural noun, we use a plural verb, like in all of the cookies are gone. So all of the water is gone compared to all of the cookies are gone. Let's go over one more example. So in the sentence, none of the students are prepared, this sentence would use a plural verb because students is plural. However, if we said none of the information is accurate, we use the singular verb is because information is a singular uncountable noun. And understanding these rules around indefinite pronouns helps us ensure that our writing is precise and grammatically sound, even with these more complex structures. Okay, so now let's take our attention to collective nouns and how they affect subject-verb agreement. Collective nouns are words that refer to a group of people or things as a single entity. So examples include words like team, family, and group. The agreement the agreement rule for collective nouns depends on whether we are treating the group as a single unit or as individuals within the group. If the group is acting as one entity, we use a singular verb. So for instance, we would say the team is winning because we are seeing the team as a single unit working together to achieve victory. So the team is winning is the verb. However, if we want to emphasize that the individuals within the group are acting separately, we can use plural verbs. So for example, the team are arguing suggests that individual members of the team are arguing with each other, highlighting separate actions within the group. This flexibility with collective nouns allow us to convey either unity or individuality depending on the context. So mastering these rules can add clarity and nuance to your writing, especially when discussing group dynamics or collaborative situations. And as we move forward, keep in mind how collective nouns can shift between singular and plural verbs depending on the intended meaning, allowing us to express either cohesion or distinction within a group. All right, so now we'll look at special cases in subject-verb agreement involving titles, distances, and amounts. And these cases have unique rules that don't always follow the patterns that we've seen so far. So first, let's discuss titles of books, movies, and other works. Even if the title appears to be plural, it takes a singular verb because we treat the title as a single entity. So for example, if we're referring to the Chronicles of Narnia, we would say the Chronicles of Narnia is a popular fantasy series using the singular verb is despite the title's plural appearance. Next, let's consider units of measurement, which includes distance, times, and amounts of money. And these often take singular verbs when they represent a single unified concept rather than individual elements. So for instance, we would say 10 miles is a long distance to walk. This is because 10 miles here functions as a single unit of distance. Similarly, we'd say $5 is enough for the item, where $5 is treated as a single sum of money. Now, these special cases helps clarify subject-verb agreements by recognizing the certain subjects, though they might appear plural, representing single concepts or entities in the sentence. There are also some specific phrases with their own agreement rules. So, for example, a number of takes a plural verb, as in a number of students are attending the workshop, while the number of takes a singular verb, as in the number of students attending is impressive. So by keeping these rules in mind, we can avoid errors in subject-verb agreements when dealing with these unique situations and ensure our writing remains clear and precise. Okay, so now let's explore subject-verb agreement in inverted sentences. So in standard English sentences, we generally place a subject before the verb, but in some sentences, the order is reversed. And this happens in questions and in statements beginning with words like there or here. So first, let's look at questions. So when forming a question, the subject and verb are inverted. Okay, so for instance, in this statement, the students are here. The subject students comes before the verb are. But when we ask, where are the students, the verb are comes before the subject. Even with the inversion, the verb still agrees with the subject. Since students is plural, we use the plural form of the verb are. Now, inverted sentences can also begin with there or here, particularly when introducing something or drawing attention to it, right? So, for example, we would say, here is the solution, with a singular verb is agreeing with the singular noun solution. Here is the solution. On the other hand, if we were referring to multiple items, we use a plural verb, so we'd say here are the solutions, using the plural verb are to match the plural noun solutions. So it's very important to remember that even though the word order changes in these cases, the verb still agrees with the subject in both number and form. So practicing these structures can help you spot the subject in inverted sentences and apply the correct verb form every time. So by understanding and applying these rules, you can keep your sentences grammatically correct even when the typical subject-verb order is reversed. Okay, so the last thing that I want to discuss is some more complex subject-verb agreement challenges, right? So these can make agreements less straightforward, so understanding these advanced cases is important for ensuring grammatical accuracy. Okay, so first let's discuss phrases like along with, as well as, and together with. So when subjects are connected by these phrases, the verb agrees with the main subject alone, not with the additional phrases. So for example, in the sentence, the teacher along with the students is planning the field trip. Again, the teacher along with the students is planning the field trip. We use the singular verb is to match the main subject teacher. The phrase along with the students doesn't change the singular nature of the subject, so the verb remains singular. Now let's look at subjects that seem plural but are actually singular in meaning, right? So for instance, words like news, mathematics, and economics may look plural, but they are considered singular nouns in English. So we'd say the news is shocking, using the singular verb is because news is a singular noun despite it ending with an S. Lastly, let's touch on collective nouns and the differences between British and American English. Okay, so collective nouns like team, staff, and family can take either singular or plural verbs depending on whether the group is acting as a single unit or as individuals. However, there is a regional difference here. Okay, so in American English, collective nouns generally take singular verbs, as in the team is winning the game. Okay, so however, in British English, collective nouns are often treated as plural. So we might say here, the team are winning the game, emphasizing individual actions within the group. So understanding these advanced cases will help you apply subject-verb agreement accurately, even with more challenging sentence structure. And by recognizing these distinctions, you can achieve clearer and more grammatically correct communication, especially in complex contents. And also remember, depending on where in the region you are speaking or writing for, understanding the difference between the British and American English is important, especially when you're taking the IELTS exam and kind of where you want to go with it. So let's take a moment to recap some of the key points that we discussed in today's video, because I know this was a kind of long video. So we discussed the importance of subject-verb agreements for clear communication. We reviewed basic and advanced rules and tackled some special cases like collective nouns, titles, and inverted sentences. And remember that subject-verb agreement is important for accuracy, especially in formal and academic writing. So as you continue to practice, remember that grammar mastery comes with time and consistent self-assessment. Regular practice will make these rules sound natural, helping you to catch errors and use correct agreement without even thinking about it. So with that, I want to tell you all thank you for listening. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button as it helps us very much. Subscribe to the channel for more content and leave a comment if you have any questions or need clarity on anything. With that, thanks for watching.